The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media.
You're listening to 910 AM Superstation, Detroit's only urban talk radio station.
It's the Wayne Bradley Show, conservative lyrical radio, giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. It's the Wayne Bradley Show, conservative lyrical radio, giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. That's what it is. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. That's what it is. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Yeah.
And good morning. Wake up, Detroit. This is the Wayne Bradley Show. This is your host, Wayne Bradley. We've got an interesting show today. I just want to start off with talking about Hugh Hefner, probably rolling in his grave right now. They just announced yesterday that there will be the first transgendered playmates in the Playboy issue for the November-December issue. Now, anyone who knows that Hugh Hefner was an icon, a civil rights pioneer, a First Amendment pioneer. But I don't know if he intended on Playboy magazine having a transgender playmate. I mean, is there anything sacred anymore? Is there anything that I can dream of that for my son down the road that'll be okay? You know, between football being unsafe and now this. I mean, all the little cool things you dream about with your boys, can't even do it. Football's too unsafe, and now they got transgenders posing in Playboy. You know, if you had something to explain to your kid already, if they snuck into your stash, into your Playboy stash, imagine them now having to go in there and find a transsexual posing. We're going to talk a little bit more. We never got to finish up yesterday. We're going to talk about the NFL. Did the Commissioner Goodell, did they capitulate and cave to President Trump and his demands? And I don't think they did. They took the first step to, actually solving some things. We're going to talk about New Detroit. I'm going to have to cue my Hello Detroit music for that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about, because again, with the connotation of New Detroit, I was talking about myself, just a nice night downtown, and went to the Pistons game, and just was amazed at how nice everything was down there, and how you could walk from one area to the other, and everything was populated with businesses, and people were, eating and drinking and enjoying themselves. So I think that, and some folks got mad because I used the word New Detroit. Well, I've lived in Detroit all my life. And I would say for like at least the last 10 years, up until about 2014, 2015, downtown was pretty empty. It was about 2 or 3 places that me and my partners used to hang out at. And we, hang out. But now there's a million places I've never even heard of. In fact, it's funny. I have some younger Caucasian friends and I guess that would make some people mad, is that they give me the inside scoop of what's happening down there now, the newest and trendiest little restaurants. And I was listening on the way home yesterday. I was listening to Spud's show, and I heard someone call in, and he was a white guy who said that he didn't understand. He said, don't we want people to move into the downtown area? Don't we want people to populate those businesses? He said, I only worked in the financial district, and for years a lot of this stuff was underdeveloped, empty. And now we have people coming in there. Are we to be mad about who is coming into these spaces, getting the businesses and opening up new businesses and investing in the community? Me personally, I say whoever has the capital to come into the city to invest, we should welcome them with open arms. To be truly an international city, a mega city, you have to have some diversity. You have to have infusions of capital. That can come from multiple different ways. That could come from immigrants and visas. And so, I mean, there's just so many ways you have to look at that. We're going to talk a little bit about this congresswoman out of Florida who decided to make the death of a soldier a political stunt, essentially, because, you know, whatever President Trump said, it was coming from a good place when he called her. And that woman decided to make it an issue of he didn't say something nice enough, or he seemed not passionate enough or compassionate enough, empathy. And the woman that did it, she is just, again, she hasn't voted. If you know her voting record, she hasn't voted for one thing in the last, since President Trump has been elected. She hasn't voted for one bill, supported one bill, and that includes a bunch of different bills that protect the military, the VA, giving them the tools they need. So while she's sitting here complaining and making, you know, and coming to the press about what she felt was not showing enough empathy, she made it a political issue. And she had to, and President Trump had to have General Kelly come out and discuss exactly what was said. And I think if I get a chance, I'm going to play a little clip of General Kelly yesterday at the press conference. He is a true, like I said yesterday, he is a true public servant to this country. We are blessed to have him in the position he's in, to be working with the president. I admire him greatly. He has lost a son in the war and has another son serving. So, I mean, he has a family of people that are committed to protecting and serving for this country, and I salute him for that. But the fact is, he was very disappointed in the fact that the media, in their epic quest to criticize and make Donald Trump look bad, that they would go and politicize the death of this soldier and not focus on the fact that this soldier gave his life for this country. The family that's grieving, they might not like Donald Trump anyway, so it wouldn't be anything for them to help throw Donald Trump under the bus too. I'm not saying that she's lying. I'm not calling her any names. I'm saying that she's being manipulated by politicians, by this congresswoman out of Florida, and, Representative Frederica Wilson is her name. And so she said John Kelly's trying to keep his job. He will say anything. Well, obviously, Representative Wilson is willing to say anything. That's the real deal on this. And again, if you really had a problem, maybe you should have wrote him a letter afterwards. Maybe you could have asked for a meeting. He is a Florida taxpayer. It wouldn't have been hard to maybe arrange a meeting just to share with the president maybe your frustration with the way he handled that situation. General Kelly said he advised the president not to do it. It was something that the president took upon himself that he wanted to do. And I would think in the future he might be a lot more cautious about that, because I'm sure he didn't expect for his phone call, one, to be made public by a congressperson. It's one thing if the family did it, and I think if the family had started off doing it, I think that maybe it would have been received differently. And again, I don't know what much of a difference it would have made from the standpoint that if that's what President Trump did indeed say, and with the proper context, it's true that when you become a soldier, you know what you're signing up for. I don't think I would use that term or in trying to console someone. That's how I would do it, but we all do it differently. We all console differently. We all deal with tragedy and death differently. I'm going through that with a family member right now, and my brother he's better at communicating and dealing with that than I am. Doesn't mean I care any less or any less empathetic. It just means that we deal with things differently. And I told my brother that, like, man, I'm proud of you. I see how you handle things. I'm not at that, right now. That's not how I do. I don't process the things the same way. And that's just being honest. Doesn't mean you're any less empathetic. It just means that maybe you don't process the things the same way. And with Donald Trump, I mean, I think he's shown that he kind of communicates a lot differently in a lot of these scenarios. So I just think that it was unfortunate that this representative, and I'm using that word loosely, decided to make this a political issue instead of doing the right thing, which was maybe sending out a letter to the president, maybe after the funeral, maybe a week or two later, she could have revealed that, and we could have dealt with it then. But during the time that we're actually in the mourning stages for these soldiers and the family in particular, this is not the time for the media to be calling them and them having to do media interviews about that. They shouldn't have to do that. And they can say that, well, Donald Trump mentioned President Obama, and I wouldn't have done that either. But the fact is that now we've turned this into a whole political, just a exercise, and that Congresswoman, I'm sure before the weekend is over, she's going to be sending out emails saying, "Hey, I'm fighting against President Trump." I got the over-under on that mailer, that email. If it hasn't already been out, it will be out before this weekend, 48 hours. If you're in her district or if you're a supporter of hers, you're going to get an email saying she needs to raise money to fight President Trump and the Republicans. More and more, I'm going to need your help. I decided to stand up for what was right, and now that I might have to pay a political price, I need your help. So what's the over-under on that? I hope some of my friends from Florida let me know, because I guarantee the mailer is going to go out, the email is going to go out, and that's how I feel. It's just a political thing, okay? And so, I mean, like I said, it's just an interesting way to look at things. We're going to talk more later this show about George Bush and his speech yesterday. W came back in a big way. And he talked about some issues that I think I miss hearing Republicans talk about. I'll be quite honest. I didn't take it as a total affront to the president like some people are trying to do, because, again, they want to stir confusion and mess. But he was speaking up on the issue, which is he was saying that that racism and things of that nature have no place in America. It's against the American creed, and that that we need to speak up against it. And I was very proud of that, because George Bush was always a good man. There was never a question about that. And I think that, his speech yesterday kind of solidified that. It was kind of funny to see some of these liberals cheering him on. And now President Obama got back on the political scene last night. I believe he was in Virginia working in that governor's race, which is one of the toughest, tightest races in the country. But again, this is one of these races where they're going to determine the direction of politics right now. Is President Trump and his support, is that helping out Republicans, or are Democrats mobilized now? I don't know. I think the Democrats have all kind of problems right now. They just went through a little shakeup themselves in the Democrat National Convention, National Committee. They are some of the longtime officials have lost their posts. And I think that has a lot to do with the way they handled Bernie Sanders and the way they, propped up Hillary Clinton, who's still out here running her mouth. And speaking of Hillary Clinton, the irony yesterday is Monica Lewinsky popped up with her Me Too campaign. I'm telling you, liberals, boy, you guys got to clean up your house before you come over here barking in the Republican House about what we got going on. Harvey Weinstein. I mean, we've long known about Bill Clinton and his predatory ways, so it doesn't surprise me. But to see that Harvey Weinstein, there's reports that Harvey Weinstein is even in the sex rehab clinic, and he's still blaming, saying this is all a conspiracy. He didn't do anything wrong. And, that's kind of like, again, Hillary Clinton said she wasn't going to return the money. She was happy to keep the money. And it's just, again, it's just amazing to me that guys like this, Harvey Weinstein, this was a running joke in Hollywood. This wasn't like some kind of innuendo. It was a running joke, including jokes that were made on TV shows about it. So it's just interesting. Give us a call. We got a lot to talk about today. It's a Friday. A lot of things to talk about this week. 313-209-9000. We've got John who's on the line. John, thanks for calling in. John, wake up. You're on the Wayne Bradley Show. All right. Well, John is still he must have dozed back off to sleep while he was on the line. I understand, my friend. It's 5:25 in the morning. I understand. So the shakeup at the Democrat National Committee, longtime officials being ousted, and the progressive wing of the party see as a retaliation for their opposition to Tom Perez. So you still got the infighting in the Democrat Party over the leadership, because Tom Perez was not really the person that allowed the more progressive wing of the party wanted. They wanted someone, I think was it Don Brazil? They wanted the woman that was working with Bernie Sanders. So you have a lot of strife going on over there, and they still can't get it together. It sounds like to me that the only thing they got going on is the same thing they had in 2016, which was vote for us. We're not Trump. It's not going to work. And I'm going to tell you now, if it continues in the same direction you're in, President Trump is going to win another election, because the Democrats don't have a vision. They don't have anyone right now that is going to sweep the masses with their communication. I mean, you have some good stars. You have Senator Kamala Harris, beautiful woman, intelligent, but she's extremely liberal. I mean, I like her, but I don't like her enough to want to have her let her take my guns. And she's a big-time gun grabber out of California. So I don't know if that's going to work. And I think the American people have shown that that's not the direction. California politicians and New York East Coast politicians a lot of times have not, Donald Trump's tried the first time in a long time that someone from New York, from the Republican side of things, but middle America just does not identify with the coast. The Midwest does not identify, the down south does not identify with the values and the things that are important on either of the coasts. The extreme liberalism, transgenders posing in Playboy. Guy from the Midwest can't understand that. I'm still miffed. I don't get it. What are you supposed to teach your sons with this kind of foolishness? I don't understand it, folks. Is it me? Tell me if I'm losing my mind. Tell me if I'm being a dinosaur, if I'm overreacting here, but I just don't understand. If I buy a guns and ammo magazine, I don't expect to go in there and find cars. I don't expect to find cap guns in there, imitation guns. I expect to find real guns. So if I'm looking in a Playboy, which at this point, I'm not a consummate owner of Playboy magazines or anything anymore, but keeping it with the tradition of growing up as an American young man, that's as American as apple pie. And I don't see why a transsexual is. I need to look that up. Is the word tranny, is that offensive? I don't know. I just heard my engineer laugh, so maybe I'm not going to use that word. I'm just going to stick with transsexual, because I don't want to offend anybody with this, because to each his own. It's your business. But you know what? Like I said, I just don't understand why that's in the Playboy magazine. So we're going to talk about all these crazy things that are happening right now in liberal America, because I don't get it. And these are the reasons why Donald Trump has won. Donald Trump is talking just pure common sense. Yes, some of it doesn't all, to the elitists. They think it's, I hear so many elitists make statements like, oh, you Trump supporters aren't all that bright. And they always got something to say about your intelligence. Well, we've let these Harvard guys run the country for a long time, and look where it's got us. Every last one of our presidents, I believe, are Ivy League guys. And all they managed to do is run up the debt more, these kind of, it's overdone on the fact that you got to be from the Ivy League schools and talk like this and be very presidential. You don't have to do that. American people can't. Everybody can't relate to that. And I think that's, again, why Donald Trump has continued to be successful and will continue to be successful, because he's going to speak about the people. So we'll be back. We're going to talk about all these things when we come back from the break. You're listening to The Wayne Bradley Show on 910 a.m., your superstation. We'll be back, Jerry.
It's The Wayne Bradley Show, conservative political radio, giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's The Wayne Bradley Show. It's The Wayne Bradley Show, conservative political radio, giving you what you need to know.
910 AM Superstation is the voice of the people. Don't believe me? Just listen.
I listen all the time. Great radio personalities.
The new mobile site is incredible. With the visual live feed, this is a whole new level for community broadcasting. I'm also very impressed with the Bible section present both in a written and audio format. 910 AM has really stepped it up to a whole new level.
And we don't just show love to the callers. We see the comments and the posts too. There's always something new to talk about, and 910 AM Superstation wants to have you covered from every angle. So we're adding some familiar voices and strong opinions to the best talk radio station in town.
I'm Republican, from Detroit, and I'm black. Yeah, that's right. Different perspective, different view. Don't miss the Wayne Bradley Show on Superstation 910 AM.
From 7 to 9 a.m., we'll have the editor for the Detroit News, Nolan Findley.
This is the most volatile time in the country in my professional career. And, that generates a lot of news, a lot of stuff to talk about.
Followed by the one and only David Alexander Bullock from 9 to 11 a.m.
The People Show, man, we bring it to you live and in full effect.
The always insightful and controversial Steve Niebling from 11 a.m. to noon.
And I do want to hear from you what you want to hear from me.
Bankalay Thompson from noon to 2 p.m.
This is the platform where we delve into the facts and informed opinion. We ask the tough questions.
The Cliff Russell Show from 2 to 4 p.m.
I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care.
Spud from 4 to 6 p.m.
Detroit's only African-American talk station, 24/7 Spud is here.
Rochelle Riley from 6 to 7 p.m.
I want to stress that this adventure is about life in Detroit and Michigan.
And Cliff Woodards from 7 to 9 p.m.
So this is it, y'all. We are the only talk radio station for African-Americans in this market.
910 AM Superstation, the only African-American talk radio station in town. 910 AM Superstation is the voice of the people. Don't believe me? Just listen.
Great programming. Inspirational.
I know there's some good info on 910 AM Superstation. The latest promo for the 4 to 7 slot at the end says, the Goon Squad's on speed dial got me listening to reruns up to the dial.
OMG. A-listers on the radio.
So when you think of 910 AM Superstation, we want you to tune in, call in, and don't forget to find us on social media. 910 AM Superstation, giving you exactly what you need by any means necessary. Thank you for calling 910 AM Superstation. What's your question or comment?
Calling in 910 is great, but I think we need an actual forum with people of substance that want to stop what's going on. You mentioned something about demand grind. My son just turned 16. Don't think for a minute. I don't think about that every minute of the day. The protest is fine. We got to get together, funding, whatever, to stop this.
We don't even expect the people with the problem to be involved. We expect people to be there who got a pile of data and say, well, this is what's happening, and we need to do this and this. And then when it's time to go to the legislature, they don't have any support because they built it all themselves. So I think if we just start with defining the problem and allowing people to have their share in there, I think we'll go a long way in improving organizing and advocacy for the average person.
910 AM Superstation, the voice of Detroit. 910 AM Superstation is the voice of the people. Don't believe me? Just listen.
I listen all the time. Great radio personalities.
The new mobile site is incredible. With the visual live feed, this is a whole new level for community broadcasting. I'm also very impressed with the Bible section present both in a written and audio format. 910 AM has really stepped it up to a whole new level.
Tune in, call in, and don't forget to find us on social media.
It's the Wayne Bradley Show, conservative political radio, giving you what you need to know. Wayne Bradley Show. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Conservative Political Radio. Giving you what you need to know. Listen up.
And welcome back to the Wayne Bradley Show on 9:10 a.m., your superstation. Wake up, Detroit. We've got a lot to talk about here today. As I was leaving there, I want to go to we got a caller here on the line. Jerry, thanks for calling in today. How you doing, sir? Good morning.
Good morning. You know what? A lot of these things I agree with you, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm pretty sure you will know. If you don't mind, I'd like to touch on a few topics this morning. Mm-hmm. General Kelly sold himself to the devil. I mean, to come out there, and I understand what he's talking about, mm-hmm. but for to have the president push him out there like a fool, and then to start talking, not once, and I mean not once, did he go to the origin, how this thing originally started. Not once. You know he's doing, man. President Bush, Trump sent him out there to come. Why is President Trump talking about this situation besides at the little gathering things happen? To have this man step out there on the podium mm-hmm. and go through this whole diatribe about his son and this, that. Who brought his son up? Yeah, this is ridiculous. And for you to sit here and say, and I respect you because I listen to you, and you get me up in the morning checking my diabetes this morning. Every morning I'm doing my thing, and I hear you. Mm-hmm. He was marched out there. This man has respect around the world. He's all of a sudden become political. And I guarantee you, once people digest what he did and what he did not say, the whole narrative is going to change about his speech yesterday. The whole narrative. One more thing I got to ask you. I've noticed this thing happening. And, he was used. The man was used. But
do you think he was used, or do you think he felt compelled? I'm sure he didn't want to get involved in this, but from the reports...
Why didn't he go?
From the reports, he just said that Donald Trump is being treated unfairly. He felt compelled to speak up because now we're politicizing soldiers' deaths. He said it's not supposed to go that far. So that's why I think he got involved.
Yeah, okay. He was marched out there. You and I both know that. For him to say that he had to go, and I understand, I can't put the people always say, I can understand you don't understand what somebody's going through when they've lost a child if you haven't lost a child.
He has, but he has though.
I said that.
Right.
I said I can't deny that. Mm-hmm. But who brought his child up, sir?
Well, listen. All right, he brought up, I don't know if when Trump was talking about it, he just said in general. He didn't bring up his son in particular. He just said that he said that President. He said Obama didn't call everyone, and I know that. He said I know that, but he didn't refer to him right then in that space. So I think that again, the problem is here is that the media, instead of maybe not jumping, and that's what General Kelly said yesterday in the press conference, is maybe instead of jumping on another let's attack Trump story, let's focus on the fact that a troop lost his life, a soldier lost his life, and that should be the story. Not what President Trump said, because at the end of the day, that's a phone call that, like General Kelly said, he didn't even think he should make the phone calls. He thinks that's.
I understand.
And so if he felt compelled to stick up.
Who brought up General Kelly's son?
Well, later on, the White House did in a communication saying that where that Donald Trump had got his information from, and General Kelly said it too. He said, I told him that I did not receive a phone call, but I wasn't criticizing President Obama. I was making it clear that there are different ways presidents have done it differently, and depending on the amount of casualties you're dealing with, it would be almost impossible for the president to call every person. But the president himself felt compelled to do it, and I just don't think it was coming from a bad place that he decided to call her. Now, again, he might have said, they know what they sign up for, which is in fact true. When the soldiers sign up in the military, they know that's.
You know that's insensitive.
I'm not denying that, but if that's the only thing he said was that's insensitive. But if he brought it in the context of him saying, but we still honor him, and though that happened, we still are, respecting this soldier. Okay, then that means that they took one part of the whole sentence of the whole conversation and made it the whole conversation, and that's politicizing it, and that's what that congresswoman is responsible for, because she's the one that called the media and said that, not Trump.
I agree. Let me ask you something about politicizing something.
Mm-hmm.
When you stand up there and say, I do it better than any other president that's ever done, that's not politicizing it.
No, at this point, I mean, come on, like I were being honest here, he does that about everything.
Yes.
He does that about everything, so it's not politicizing it. He's pretty consistent about that, and he's always done that. Like, since he's been Donald Trump.
I had a friend growing up, and he used to do some of the craziest, weirdest stuff, and I knew sooner or later it'd become dangerous. And everybody always used to say when we were going, well, that's just who he is.
Yeah.
And that's what I hear you all saying. That's just who he is.
I mean, that's, to me,
John Kelly has not come out one time before this and said, you've seen him with
he's apolitical. Yeah, he's apolitical.
Yeah,
but most,
I don't believe that anymore.
Most military men,
I don't believe that anymore.
I mean, to be honest, if you looked up his voting record, he's a registered Democrat. Okay,
I don't care about a person's voting record. The man
he's apolitical. I mean, that's his. All right, he's the chief of staff. He serves at the will of the president, and
there you go.
So that okay. So if let's say if Trump said, "Why don't you go out there and explain what happened?" It was I'm not even sure that. I think that from the reports I've read is that Kelly said, "Okay, now it's just gone too far. He's not getting a fair shake at this." And that's why he felt more. And he said, he's like, look, I'm going to explain the whole process. I don't think that Donald Trump came to him and said, why don't you tell him step by step what happens when a dead soldier leaves the country and has to be put on ice. I think that was General Kelly because again, he asked everyone in the room. That was the powerful part about it. He asked every reporter, every person in the room, how many of you are a Gold Star family? How many of you know a Gold Star family? And no one did. No one raised their hand.
Okay.
And so I think, and he's speaking from an advantage point of, I'm one of them. And it's not. He said, there's no good conversation. There's no good way to call someone and tell them their child has died or their husband or spouse has died, and that's just a rough conversation to have. And I give him credit for wanting to do it.
I do. I give him credit for being pushed out. Come on, this man was political. Now it seems like when people. Like the guy that was up to be the drug czar. When people get in high positions, all of a sudden morals and things go out of the window. John Kelly showed who he truly was yesterday. I respect the man and his service and everything else. John Kelly was told to go out there. You and I will disagree. But let me say something else. Let's change it real quick.
Yes, sir.
When you talk about, because you give me a couple minutes. When you talk about Weinstein, I'm just asking. This is your show.
Yes, sir.
When we talk about Weinstein, how about let's talk about Dennis Hastert and how the Republicans turned their back, how he was molesting little boys.
But why are we talking about that right then? He's in jail. He's dealt his.
I understand that, but when you
Harvey Weinstein is still denying it. Bill Clinton is walking around like he's never done anything wrong. That's the difference. The position of power.
It's called money, sir. See, the difference between you and I, or me and some people, I'm not going to assume that political parties mean nothing to me. Right is right and wrong is wrong.
I'm okay with that.
Political parties it doesn't mean anything to me. I'm going to change it one more time.
But would you agree with this, Jerry, that when it's a Democrat compared to a liberal, let's just say someone that's in Hollywood or something like that, they cover the story differently. It wasn't until celebrity, let's be very clear here, it wasn't until celebrity white women started speaking up against Harvey Weinstein in the last week that it even mattered, because this was not news to Hollywood, okay? And so they gave him a pass.
You and I agree on that. But since we're talking about Let's go one more.
Yes, sir. Why not, man? It's 5:45. Let's do it.
There you go. And I'm up. You know what I'm saying? I have to get up this time every morning.
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate the dialogue.
No problem.
I've noticed.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a news conference with the Macomb County officials. I saw a news conference with, and I see that they're getting ready to put opioid protection in. I mean, they're going to make this a national thing now.
Oh yeah, I already know where you. I already know where you're going with this, Jerry.
Yeah, you know where I'm going.
I already know where you're going with that. Yeah. Well, listen, I've said this a couple times on the show, on my Facebook. We've been having an epidemic in our community.
You better know it.
And
you better know it.
And this opioid crisis was caused by the legal drug industry. This is not like a street epidemic. This is not like how crack cocaine hit and it was, nefarious reasons why it happened in the first place. This is purely greed and the lobbying power of big pharma, of the drug industry. And it made it easier. And the guy that was going to be the drug czar, ironically enough, was the guy that had been fighting to make it easier for these drugs to populate and get into the hands of these doctors. These doctors, in turn, who are struggling to make money under Obamacare, decided that some of them need to become drug dealers and distributors, and that's a problem. These aren't drugs that are made in Mexico or Colombia and shipped to America. These drugs are made right here in good old U.S. of A. And so, no, I already know where you're going with that, Jerry. And the problem, the issue is obviously it's two issues. Now that's an epidemic problem, and they're victims. When it was with us, it was a criminal issue, okay? And so, yes, I'm conscious of that, and I get it. I totally get it. And when I see all these different reports, I do think that obviously when you start bringing all these suburban folks and soccer moms over across 8 Mile and they're buying heroin and shooting up and dying right there on Gratiot, you're gonna get a lot of news about that. That's just not, that doesn't happen every day. Well, now it's starting to happen a lot more, but the whole point was that would be considered news to these folks, and I guess it's happening in such a quick pace where this is happening everywhere. It's not just Detroit. It's not just one city. This is happening in all throughout the Midwest and these small towns and things like that. And so that's why I guess it's become an epidemic. You got people addicted to heroin, and they go to the heroin sometimes, oddly enough, when they can't get their hands on the pills. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, but you know what? They're talking about now, these people don't need to be locked up. They need to be treated.
Well, that's what I said.
I don't remember hearing that.
No, and it's still not like that. It's still not like that. This is a health care issue with them, with the opioid crisis, and with the crack cocaine issue, it was a criminal issue. So, yeah,
but heroin hasn't changed, sir.
No. You're getting way more trouble for dealing heroin than you will for any of these other drugs. So, no, there hasn't changed.
Yeah, but they don't, they're talking about now victims. I mean, this is amazing. When it used to be, let's just incarcerate all those black folks because they thought that drug was just strictly in the inner cities. But we all knew better,
Well, they didn't even clamp down on crack until it started getting into the suburbs, or you had some violent incidents. It was a couple things of some violent incidents that happened. Because the crack trade was so prevalent, like in New York, it was a police that got shot, assassinated, and that kind of raised the temperature there, and Ronald Reagan started paying attention. But Ronald Reagan was paying attention to Detroit at the time. He was looking at the Chambers brothers and all these different folks, young black men becoming millionaires overnight.
Yeah, but you know what?
And so, there was a different element to that.
Yeah, you understand what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm fair. I'm fair on that, Jerry.
I heard the Macomb County officials say, there's really no need in us locking these people up. We have to give them And I'm sitting there going to myself, what in the hell just happened?
Yeah, well,
I guess the whole narrative just changed because the color of the skin of these people has all of a sudden been exposed. Let me tell you something. We I appreciate and all that. We'll delve deeper one time, and you already know when you talk about Reagan, and let's talk about the Contras, and let's talk about Oliver North, and let's talk about that crack cocaine coming to this country.
That's what I'm saying. That's a totally crack cocaine wouldn't even. That's it's a whole nother even reason and that's why I say the irony is that these opioid crises, in particular with the pills and things, these are made right here in America. There's no shipping.
They're around. They've got people running around with Narcan to revive them and this, that, and the other. And I'm sitting here saying, I already know, and I know you already know, it depends on whose ox is being gored. And as long as it's black folks, who gives a damn? That's what it did. Let's just get bottom line here. You know that.
No, I definitely think it's been a different approach in terms of how they're policing it and how they're addressing it as a healthcare issue as opposed to a criminal issue.
When your little white daughter all of a sudden is shooting up, she ain't a criminal. She's sick.
Yeah. No.
She's sick. She's not a criminal. She's sick. Come on, man. But I appreciate it. And like I said, we will agree to disagree. General Kelly was told to go out there and make a fool of himself.
Do you really think he made a fool of himself, though? Do you really think he made a fool?
No. I might have went far, but if you're going to go out there and talk about it, you got to talk about all of it. You got to talk about the man that brought up your son. You got to talk about all of it. And if anybody with common sense knows anything, because I said we always excuse it. Well, you know how he is. Darn well Donald Trump didn't handle that situation well. And I both know that. And we weren't there. Because that's it. Remember, don't forget, that's just who he is. Well, you know that, man.
Well, like I said, no one's perfect, and I think that's like I said. I wouldn't want to wish. I wouldn't want to wish that. I wouldn't want to wish that scenario on anybody, Jerry. Would you want to call somebody's mother or brother?
Ain't no doubt about it. I would think that would be the hardest thing. And
so let's cut him some slack. So let's cut him some slack, Jerry. That was the first time. That was the first time he probably had to make that call, or maybe one of the few times he's had to make that call. So let's give him some slack on that. No one's perfect. It was coming from a good place. It was coming from a good place. I think that's the thing we have to keep in mind. He wanted to be respectful. He wanted to add a personal touch to this grieving widow.
Words matter, my man. They not only matter, they matter the way you put them in context.
Well, I think that's the part where I have a problem with this congresswoman, because I think she took one sentence and took that and used it out of context for political gain. Jerry, what's your over under on this congresswoman sending out an email blast over this weekend raising money based off this?
I think the same odds. I'll give you the same odds for that, and I think it's pretty high. The same odds where you got congressmen and senators around the country saying after the shoot, they're talking about taking our guns. We need your money. Those same odds, sir.
That's probably the same odds that the Democrats have used to say we need to take the guns off the streets. Send us some money too. That's my point. But we shouldn't have politicized the death of a soldier that way. It's almost expected now. It's almost expected now when there's a gun, any kind of violence with guns, that Democrats are going to go out and start screaming more gun control, and Republicans are going to fight against it. They're going to fight against it.
There you go.
But that's what they should do.
You know what?
I think that's what. Don't get me wrong. I think that Republicans are here to uphold more of the constitutional values, and Democrats are here to try to expand it and go around it as much as possible. And that's what they do. They kind of look at they go Constitution, Smonstitution. It doesn't matter about that. Let's talk about what's going on right now.
What? And then take some comment about what's going on right now. I try to tell my friends and everybody that I love politics because I'm just amazed at how gullible some people are. And that's on both sides. Don't get me wrong.
No, that's fair. That's a fair statement.
Exactly. People are just used like puppets. And you have people that vote for folks because they've heard a nice sound bite.
Unfortunately, like I said, that's what frustrates me with my people the most, Jerry. I'll be very honest about that.
Thank you.
It's very frustrating to see folks. They go for a jingle or a slogan, and that's all it takes.
Yes.
And next thing you know, everybody's joining that movement. And I think that black folks, we need to demand more of our elected officials. We need to demand, if we demand more out of them, they know they can't come back to their constituents and just give BS answers, and we just continue to go along with it. And, blaming it on the other party and all that stuff. That should be played out by now.
True.
I mean,
that's true, but, at the same time, you have white Southern folks do the same thing. And please don't go telling me about the New South, sir. I travel there quite often. It ain't no New South.
Nah, I'm not defending. Now you didn't. No New South. Hey, Jerry, you're not gonna give me no argument out of me on that either. I'm not. I'm a proud Yankee. I know how it is down south. I go down. I've been down there.
Know it.
I'm a proud Yankee. No, it ain't nothing changed down there too much.
All it takes for a black man to go down there, and then you'll find out how new it is. It's not a New South.
I will signify that for you. I spent a month in New Orleans, and that's when I realized that was in like 2015 or 14. I said, whoa.
Yeah.
Things, before I left, my dad was like, be careful, son. They still feeding, black folks to the gators down there. And
you better know it. And let me tell you
I thought he was exaggerating, but, it was no joke down there.
It's the truth. And they have no problem letting you know who you are and where you stand, because don't get it twisted. I had a guy tell me down in Alabama, we still run this. I said, well, I knew you did too. But the difference is now I will shoot you. But don't get it twisted. And I got folks running around, well, the South is the. Give me a break. Let me say one thing real quick.
Go ahead, Jerry.
I try to tell people all the time, we get all caught up in this Republican, Democrat, Republican. This country doesn't work for people like me. And I'm not talking about me because I'm black.
Mm-hmm.
Politicians are bought and paid for. Anytime.
Well, I think that's why they voted for Donald Trump. Jerry, I really think that is the connection that people had. It was the idea, not that it was the idea that no one had bought Trump to get elected. They liked the fact that a lot of these companies were uncomfortable with Donald Trump. They didn't want to even be near him, far less actually be the ones supporting him. And I think to the common guy, like how you just said, there are black and white people that feel that way. There are. That's why I tell people, like, everybody always thinks, you got to be a rich guy to be a Republican, or you got to be this. I was like, I know white guys that make $30,000 a year, and they identify with Donald Trump because they feel like they're the forgotten folks, and that's that's an economic thing. That is not a race or an ethnicity thing. I can't get a good job. I don't think I'm able to get a good job right now. The conditions are that bad that, when Donald Trump came in there and started talking about America first, bringing jobs back, that's what brought these folks in. Some of these guys were Democrats.
But Donald Trump also draws a crowd of people, you're not going to deny this, he going to put them black folk back in their place. He going to put them right back in their place.
Well, you know what? It's a small group of ignorant folks that might believe that. The same way there was a small group of ignorant black folks that thought that President Obama was going to give us reparations, free mortgages, and all these other things. Hey, listen, Jerry. I appreciate you calling in, and we had this good conversation. As you can see, man, we probably agree with more things than we disagree about. And so I do appreciate you.
We don't agree about General Kelly because he sold himself to the devil.
All right. Well, he's a patriot in my book, but I appreciate you calling in, Jerry. Thank you so much. I appreciate folks calling in and giving their input on these things. And thanks again, Jerry. We're listening to the Wayne Bradley Show here on 910 AM, your superstation. We'll be back shortly.
It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Conservative Political Radio. Giving you what you need to know. Listen up. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Conservative Political Radio. Giving you what you need to know. Listen up.
If you want to hear the voices of Detroit, look no further than 910 AM Superstation.
Well, do you think if women knew how to care for their hair in a better way and could appreciate their own hair, that maybe they wouldn't rely so much on wigs and weaves?
Most people get a wig or a weave to kind of camouflage. A lot of women wearing weaves because they want to just change up. What we're saying is that whether you're wearing your natural hair, whether you're wearing relaxed hair, whether you're wearing any type of hair extension, weave, the healthiness of your own hair is most important.
So are there public tax dollars that are going to be used to develop this land, or is this a private development?
There will be some application for public dollars. Brownfield redevelopment is part of it. They will also ask for TIF funding from the City Council.
910 AM Superstation, the voice of Detroit. 910 AM Superstation. We're bigger and better than ever and growing daily.
I'm Dr. Taylor. This is my inaugural show. Just a few things about me. I'm happy to be here to be part of the Superstation team. This program, we want to talk about addiction, which is a really broad subject. It covers a whole lot of things. I ask you to call in if you want to talk to me on the air about anything. We have online Sandra.
You have been my mentor for years. I look up to you, and I talk about you all the time to people. I think that what you've done proved to other people that they can do whatever they want to do with their life. And that's helped me get back up to it, because I was an alcoholic at one time. And I've been sober for 12 years on September 15th.
910 AM is the gold standard for talk radio. Every weeknight at 9 p.m. is something new and something fresh.
This is Todd Corser, and I want you to check out my show. Listen in and call every week as we explore government and hot topics. Tune in, raw and uncut.
This is attorney Michael Schwartz at 910 AM Superstation, and you can hear me every Tuesday night starting at 9 p.m.
Hello, Detroit. This is attorney Crystal Crittenden, and please tune in to my new show, The Truth Matters, on 910 AM Superstation.
Hello, everyone. I'm Charlene Mitchell, your host of Mind Your Business. Listen to my show live every Thursday from 9 to 11 p.m.
I'm Reverend Maya Lisa Reynolds, inviting you to listen to Mama Maya Speaks Friday evenings from 9 until 11 p.m., discussing education, motivation, and inspiration on Superstation 910 AM.
Different names, different voices, but the same energy. 910 AM Superstation, the voice of Detroit. 910 AM Superstation is the voice of the people. Don't believe me? Just listen.
I listen all the time. Great radio personalities.
The new mobile site is incredible. With the visual live feed, this is a whole new level for community broadcasting. I'm also very impressed with the Bible section present both in a written and audio format. 910 AM has really stepped it up to a whole new level.
Tune in, call in, and don't forget to find us on social media. We're the hottest station in town. Whatever you need, it's right here on 910 AM Superstation. The most powerful voices in the urban community. 910 AM Superstation gives you the flip side, the real side. This is our side.
Are we on the air?
You're listening to 910 AM Superstation, Detroit's only urban talk radio station. You're listening to 910 AM Superstation, Detroit's only urban talk radio station.
It's the Wayne Bradley Show, conservative lyrical radio, giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. It's the Wayne Bradley Show, conservative lyrical radio, giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. That's what it is. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. That's what it is. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Wayne Bradley Show live on 910 AM, your Superstation. Moving into the second hour of the show here. Thanks for calling in. The call-in number is 313-209-9000. Now, yesterday the one issue that I didn't get to finish talking about was the NFL. And for the world of me, I don't know why. I think the president has a lot on his plate, a lot of things he needs to focus on, tax reform being the biggest issue of the day. But the NFL has really annoyed him. And I don't know. Again, I think it goes to a couple different issues. I think that my personal opinion is that President Trump never forgets a diss. He never forgets someone that slighted him in any kind of way. And like I was telling Jerry earlier, hey, that's just Donald Trump. That's the kind of person he is. He does not forgive. He does not forget. And so the NFL addressed some of those different issues. I've got some clips of Roger Goodell talking about how they want to stay out of politics. And I think that's, at this point, I think that's the smart thing to do. So I'm going to go ahead and play a couple of those clips from Roger Goodell.
Republicans identifying as pro-football fans, down 15%, Democrats only 3%. So it doesn't directly speak to the anthem protests, but what's your reaction to those numbers, and what, if any, steps can be taken to reverse that trend?
Well, we believe doing the right thing is what you ultimately have to do. And I think listening to our players, understanding our players, trying to address those underlying issues, and making our communities better is where the real opportunity is. And that long term is going to benefit us. And so that's what our focus is, and that's how we're going to deal with it.
What about that split, though? That split between the parties, the political.
I don't think that surprises anybody. What we're trying to do is stay out of politics. We're not looking to get into politics. What we're looking to do is continue to get people focused on football.
Commissioner,
people come.
Commissioner, you've been talking about.
And so there you go. Roger Goodell, I call him Fidel Goodell because he rules with an iron fist in the NFL. He is every much a dictator as anyone I've ever seen in terms of professional sports. He is, he's not a good man. I'm not a big Roger Goodell fan, but I do understand his methods. He's run a very tight operation, a very profitable operation, and the owners appreciate what he does. But if you heard the clip, I think the important thing, I think that the New York Giants owner kind of changed his mind about what he was saying after talking to the players. And it shows that if you actually talk to the players and listen to what they're saying, we would diffuse a lot of the reasons that people are so mad in the first place. It was never, and I repeat this, I hope that some of my so-called patriot friends will get this. And I don't mean patriots from the football team. I mean Tea Party guys and my fellow Trump supporters. This was never, ever, and I repeat, ever, it was never about the flag. It was never about disrespecting the country. And I cringe every time I hear someone say, well, it's our country, our flag. These aren't international players in the NFL we're talking about. These are Americans. And they had an issue that they wanted to bring awareness to. And that's all this was. This was never about the disrespect of our country. In fact, it's celebrating the greatness of our country that you could protest in freedom without fear of retribution of sorts, without your government or someone. Because you can't protest like that in other countries. So it's a testament to how great this country is. But a lot of folks didn't see it that way. Colin Kaepernick, who got the idea to kneel, got that from a Green Beret who told him that was the most respectful way he could do it, as opposed to just sitting down on the bench. So to me, it was never going to be a scenario that I guess people were really happy about because they didn't want to hear about it. But, the owners in a situation where it's, this is your profit. This is your money. And I don't know anybody that wants their employees to walk around feeling like the boss or ownership doesn't care about them at all. Now, in football in particular, it's always been known that the ownership really doesn't have a personal affinity for the players. They have a job to do. But they are human beings. And when I hear people say, well, they're not the oppressed ones, well, their cousins could be oppressed. Their family members could be oppressed. They came from those conditions. They know what it's like. They have every reason to do that. Every NFL player that's wearing pink hasn't been affected by breast cancer, but he's helping bring awareness to an issue, an important issue. And I don't think that breast cancer awareness should be any more divisive than equality or justice against police. And so, I mean, I'm consistent on that. You know, when I hear people complain about some of the things that I say and call me names because I believe in certain policy agendas that are different from maybe theirs, it's it's a little disheartening. But at the end of the day, that has nothing to do with justice, equality, some of the more social, community-driven issues that I believe in, that I'll stand with. This police officer, the police chief in the Michigan State Police, is taking 5 days of non-paid work to learn more maybe about her racial injustice. But I think that the more we have these conversations, the more that there's more to learn. There's more to take away from it, and you can educate folks. They have to be willing to have that conversation. And I think that to me, that's where a lot of this is going to start. When I hear these fans talking about how lazy and entitled these players are, no one's worked harder than some of these NFL guys to get where they're at. And no one takes more abuse. Their bodies, their careers are shorter. So they have a lot to risk by speaking up. Colin Kaepernick is 29 years old, and potentially will never play football again because he spoke up on a social issue. Do you see how stupid that sounds? Not because of his play, because some guys try to say, oh, he sucks. The dude was in the Super Bowl 3 years ago. 2 years ago, after the Denver Broncos had won their Super Bowl, they were willing to trade a third or fourth round pick for Colin Kaepernick. So it's not a talent issue. It's the fact that he stood up for something that made some owners uncomfortable, made some owners mad. I'm a football junkie, folks. I could sit here for the next hour and just talk football and would be happy and wouldn't have to talk politics. But Jerry Jones, I'm a Cowboys fan, big-time Cowboys fan. Jerry Jones had to take the initiative to go a step further. Had to take a step further and say that anybody who stood or took a knee would be benched. Made me lose a little respect for Jerry Jones on that. Made me lose a little respect for the organization. Because though I love the Cowboys, I don't like that. Made me want to think. It's had me really considering switching teams, going to an organization and an owner that I know cares about these issues, and that's the Rooney family, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sorry, Detroit Lions. I don't cheer for losers. You've never given me a reason in my life to cheer for the Lions. I cheer for them. I wish for their success. They're like that uncle that just won't get off the couch, that maybe if you can get him a job, maybe he'll start winning. And that's how I feel about the Lions. I want them to win. I want them to be successful. But until they sell that team to Dan Gilbert, I know they're not concerned about winning over there. And I would start the petition drive for Dan Gilbert to buy the Lions, because then I know we got somebody that cares about winning, that has that competitive fire, that drive to be the best, even as an owner. That's what Jerry Jones has. That's why I've always loved Jerry. It's always been about, part of the lure, part of the love of the Cowboys was Jerry Jones. So I'm hurt. I'm hurt, Jerry. I'm disappointed. I feel like you let me down. And, it's just disappointing, like I said, that football has taken such a political turn because, again, I understood people were saying, like, I watch football to get away. I want to watch football and not think about politics, not think about work per se, right? And so we should be able to get past the anthem, folks. And I think that's what Roger Goodell said. They said they're not going to force players. The memo basically made it clear that they think you should stand. And at this point, now that they've had that discussion with the owners, I think that most of the players probably will stand for the anthem. Most of the players were already standing for the anthem. I think that that's another fact that is lost on people, is that most of the NFL players still were standing for the anthem. There is one other issue, and I agree with Michael Bennett on this, of the Seattle Seahawks, is that they do need to talk about Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick filed a lawsuit this week aiming at collusion amongst NFL teams. And I wonder, I would suggest that they have to get that tape of what Stephen Ross said here in Detroit when he was visiting with Dan Gilbert, where he pretty much said it like, hey, it's not worth it because of the issues he brings to the table, which we're talking about now as police brutality and injustice, criminal justice reform. To me, those should be issues that we should be proud that NFL players are taking up, not ones that, I'm not going to sign this guy. I don't want to, we need to look at the fans and the people that are mad that the guy is taking a stand on that, not Colin Kaepernick. That's just my position on that. And we just have to look at how we need to change the way we're looking at some of these things in terms of who's wrong, what was said, how was it said, how was it handled. I just think that people have totally taken things out of proportion, out of context. So I want to, if you want to call in and talk about that, give me a call, 313-209-9000. Will you still be is there anybody boycotting the NFL right now? I was a little emotional earlier in the season when I saw they were going to take out Ezekiel Elliott. I was willing to boycott 6 games for Zeke and for Cap together. I threw Cap in there with that, but I was very disappointed about how they were treating my Cowboys. But I feel a certain amount of pride is out of my heart is left because of the stupid things. I feel like what Jerry said. Unnecessary. Even if you said that in private in your locker room, that should have stayed in the locker room. There was no need to essentially dare the players, grown men, to not take a stand on your team. You're dividing the team. There's guys on the team that agree with Jerry and there's guys that don't. There's no need to put that in the public square for TV folks to sit around and debate for a couple of days. And I'm glad the NFL has taken a better look at the situation and is listening to the players. I mean, that is, to me, those are the things we can do. If I want to know what's going on in rural America, if I want to know the challenges that a farmer has in rural America, you know who I'm going to listen to? I'm going to listen to the farmer from rural America. He's the one qualified to tell me what his plight is. And the same way should be held for black people in urban America dealing with some of the issues they have. And I think that we're better when we listen to each other as a country. When we start caring about things that maybe not in our backyard, maybe I should care, we should care more about the plight of rural America when in terms of food delivery and the things that they're offering to the country. Maybe we should be more attentive to those needs. But it should be the same way for black Americans when we're talking about justice, equality, and in particular with the police. Because, I struggle with the whole using the word equality because it covers so many things. We could talk about education. We could talk about jobs. We could talk about opportunities. We could talk about lending. We could be talking about home ownership. We could talk about so many different things with equality when you use that word. But when you start being very specific with police violence and brutality and wanting justice on that, that to me, that's an American want. Conservatives, we always complain about the government being too much in our business and, wanting to ask too many questions and wanting to tax us at an unfair rate. Taxation is theft, is what a lot of my conservative friends like to tell me. Well, we should be just as frustrated and appalled that a tax-paying government official is abusing the rights of American citizens. It doesn't matter, not black citizens, American citizens. And that's what I challenge a lot of my patriots to get more in depth with. When you're listening to me, it's still Wayne is conservative Bradley. I'm still pro-life, still pro-guns. But yes, I'm pro-black too. I want to make sure that there's justice. Now, does that mean that when I say I'm pro-black, does that mean I'm just going to go along with every silly little thing that some black activist throws out there? No, that's not how it rolls. I'm going to go case by case, listen to what the issues are, and we deal with them by a case-to-case basis. You know, we do have people that are what I consider the ambulance chasers of political activism. You know, whenever there's a possibility of something, they're jumping into it before we even get all the information. And I think that that's a difference. And I think that we need to do, I'm all on board on talking about those issues when that is justified. And I think that when we talk about police brutality as a whole, I think that that's something we need to talk about. Is that the only issue? Is that the biggest issue facing the black community? No. But we should not have to face that issue as well, is what I would say. That's not the biggest issue. Every day there's not cops shooting black people like that's the biggest issue of the day. But we should not have to deal with that and not have any justice for it. We know that cops shoot white people too, but there's justice usually for that. And there's justice in the sense that in the hood, when a black man shoots another black man and they catch that man, he's going to jail. There is justice for that family knowing that that man is in jail. That's when they catch him, of course, because you have in big cities the murder, the actual rate on it is pretty bad. But again, a lot of times in the community, a lot of these killings are over drug related territories and money and things like that, which again is why I challenge the whole war on drugs and the laws that we have made that put young men in this situation where they're fighting over a neighborhood that they don't own, where they're fighting over a corner or a territory that their mother's renting out of, that they don't even own. You see what I mean? But these drug laws have encouraged this kind of activity. And people say, well, why do you say that, Wayne? I said, it's the same way Prohibition did with alcohol. People were killing each other on corners, drive-bys, rolling up, pulling up on people over alcohol because it was money involved, and you couldn't just go to the store and buy it. And so I equate the same exact principles of how ineffective Prohibition was to what has happened in the war on drugs. The difference is that it's profitable now to lock up people, in particular, in the war on drugs, brown and black people. And so there's a component to what's going on now that they've been incentivized to make a policy that, one, locks us up, and then we privatize and incentivize the jail system where we owe the jails money if we don't keep the jails filled. Think about that, folks. The government locks themselves into deals with these private corporations and says, hey, we guarantee that we're going to keep this at 90% full. Well, how do you guarantee that you're going to keep something 90% full? You have these laws that are in place. You have all these different things that are in place that pretty much guarantee, yep, you will keep these jails full. And I have a problem with that. Those are, to me, are my libertarian leanings get me out there a little bit when I talk about that. But I don't believe in a government that should, using drugs and things of that nature, just like alcohol. Those are personal decisions. And as long as you're not hurting or infringing on the rights of others, then that's your business. We've had multiple discussions about this with different folks about legalization, and you're going to have on the ballot, even in Detroit with the marijuana issue, you're going to have, I think, 2 ballot issues where just yesterday, as a matter of fact, you had Marvin Winans, again, stepping into an issue in the community of these all-cash businesses. He don't like cash businesses. I haven't quite figured that out why, but he don't like anything that involves that cash going in there. And so he has an issue along with, I think, Councilman Tate and some other leaders in Detroit don't want all these dispensaries in Detroit. And I find it interesting because other cities are sure going to take it. This whole idea of they're only going to open them up in Detroit. No, they're not going to only open them up in Detroit. And I think that if you want to have a certain amount or if you want to create a red light district or something like that, I think that's something that needs to be considered. But the idea that the government can create laws and tell you that this is not good, but this person can do it, but that person can't. We've created this system. We have created a system where that is the case. And so, I think that we need to look at, when we start talking about policy and these kind of issues, those are the things we need to talk about. What do you think, Detroit? Give me a call, 313-209-9000. I think that some of these antiquated laws create a system that, yes, you can keep your jails filled at 90% when you have bogus laws in the books that are locking up people for nonviolent offenses more than once. You get to keep them in there longer. And so, to me, it's a lose-lose situation because, again, the taxpayers, we're getting fleeced. We're paying for things that, me personally, I don't want to lock up people that have been productive members of society, that are actually have the hustle and the muscle to go try to make something for themselves. They need to just be directed, mentored, guided into another field. And that, they haven't killed anybody. They're not doing anything violent. Now, you can make the argument that someone else might have died. Maybe there was drug use, or maybe there was some. But if they haven't been convicted, they're not being tried for murder or anything like that, then they were just a salesman, and then no crimes were committed. I think that we have to look at that in that aspect, like Jerry called earlier and talking about. We look at one as an epidemic of a health issue, and then we look at some of it as a criminal issue. And so I think those are the things we got to pay attention to moving forward on that. And it's going to be interesting. And so moving on, I just want to I find this hilarious. I want to find, I love the irony of life right now. They're still doing this Russia investigation, right? Still digging into, supposedly it was supposed to be digging into Donald Trump and his collusion with Russia. But guess what? The longer we dig, the more we find out the real collusion was going on during the Obama administration for the sale of uranium. They were aware of the bribery schemes and all the different things that Russia was doing to put itself into the stratosphere of a superpower when it came to energy through the nuclear situation. But they did nothing. In fact, we gave them the uranium. We helped supply them with what they needed. Okay, and so now, digging deeper into all this, they're starting to see the collusion and the, at the very least, the coordination between the the Clinton Foundation and Russian officials. A lot of this was negotiated through the Clinton Foundation. Bill Clinton got $500,000 for one speech in Russia. What does that tell you? Sure doesn't sound like they have too many issues with the Russians. If they offered you $500,000 and you accepted, you couldn't have been that mad at them. And I definitely wouldn't be mad at them after they gave you $500,000, Bill. So I totally get that. But I think that that people need to pay attention to these things. The media, most of the mainstream media, and they're not going to report that. Probably won't hear that too much on the air here, maybe from my good friend Nolan Finley. But other than that, guys like the guy that comes on between 9 and 11, he's going to offer full complexion protection for that. I'm not doing names. I'm not promoting anybody's show like that. But, people will continue to defend. And the only thing they'll want to do is go after President Trump. Trump and Russia. I told people yesterday, because that had been my nickname because, we've been working with Russia. I was the Black Russian. Well, Obama's got that title now. He's earned it. They have earned it. Millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation, funneled through from Russia, the Ruskies. I grew up during the Cold War. I don't trust Russia. I'll be honest about that. I know that I felt the reason why President Trump was comfortable to deal with them was because he had done business with them in the real estate world. And he had found that these guys all of them weren't as bad. And that's, in his eyes, dealing with selling real estate. When you're selling real estate and you're leasing out properties, you really don't care how nice they are. As long as they're paying, that's how you would determine how much you like a person, if they're paying. So I tell you what, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to take some calls, but we got a lot to talk about. You're listening to the Wayne Bradley Show on 910 a.m., your superstation.
It's the Wayne Bradley Show, conservative lyrical radio, giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. It's the Wayne Bradley Show, conservative lyrical.
This Total Traffic Report is brought to you by the Exogen Temporal Scanner Thermometer. Ready for a bad cold and flu season? Knowing when it's the flu can make a big difference in knowing when to call your doctor. The best way to tell is that the flu brings a fever. So be prepared with a thermometer you can trust. The Exogen Temporal Scanner, backed by more than 70 clinical studies.
The body, it is a work of art and a powerful ally in the fight against cancer. A new approach called immunotherapy empowers your body's natural immune system to fight cancer. This is Jimmy Smits, and I'm here with Stand Up to Cancer. Immunotherapy works by helping our immune system correctly identify and eradicate many types of cancer cells. Speak with your doctor and visit su2c.org/immunotherapy to learn more. Your body might just be your greatest hope.
The November 2016 election in Detroit was a disaster with national consequences. That is the city clerk's fault. It's time to move from chaos to competence. I'm Garland Gilchrist, and I will stand tall for Detroit as your next city clerk. No more polling locations without ballots. No more voting machines locked in rooms without a key. And I will make sure our poll workers are well trained. We cannot repeat the embarrassment of 2016. Vote for Garland Gilchrist on Tuesday, November 7th.
Paid for by friends of Garland Gilchrist.
Hello, this is Dave Bain. As former mayor of Detroit, I know firsthand about the importance of having qualified people in city government. City clerk candidate Garland Gilchrist is well prepared and committed to Detroit. It's time to let our next generation lead with new ideas and new energy. Vote Garland Gilchrist for Detroit City Clerk. He's the right candidate at the right time. Thank you.
On November 7th, vote Garland Gilchrist for City Clerk. Paid for by the Friends of Garland Gilchrist.
If you want to hear the voices of Detroit, look no further than 910 AM Superstation.
That's the part I find a little bit troubling, is him being a minister and using this kind of language.
And as long as you old stepping, fetching, stupid Negroes keep acting like white conservatives care about you, let me say, I'm going to say it on there, Wayne Bradley, you a toy, you a token. You my brother, man. I got love for you. But, man, you are a disgrace to your race. Same with you black people that licking the Democratic booty. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to lick that white booty, man. You said a man of God shouldn't speak like that.
I'm giving you great reasons why the Republicans are working hard for Detroit.
You haven't given us any reason. We already know the votes aren't there for insurance. That's not going to happen. Y'all did take people's pensions through the emergency manager process. Wayne, where were you? How come you didn't stand with the pensioners, Wayne? How come you didn't stand with the pensioners, Wayne?
You're over-talking me.
910 AM Superstation, the voice of Detroit. If you want to hear the voices of Detroit, look no further than 910 AM Superstation.
I know there's some good info on 910 AM Superstation. Real talk for real people.
We are 910 AM Superstation, the voice of Detroit. Be sure to catch Doing the D with Alexander Zonchek right here on 910 AM Superstation.
And you know what that means? Lots of cool stuff. Hey, if you love gospel and jazz and Motown cruises and holiday festival concerts in Monroe, we've got it all right here for you.
I want to say thank you for all you do, all you give us. We, your fans, we just love you. And you know,
I appreciate that, Phyllis. Thank you so much. It's uncomfortable to get compliments to do something that you love doing so much, but I appreciate it.
The voice of Detroit, Sundays from 5 to 7 p.m. 910 AM Superstation is in a league of its own. We are the only talk radio station in the Metro Detroit area sensitive to the African American community.
Make sure you join us on what station?
910 AM the Superstation.
910 AM.
910 AM. On 910 AM Superstation.
910 AM Superstation, Metro Detroit's only African American based talk radio station.
It's the Wayne Bradley Show, conservative lyrical radio, giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. It's the Wayne Bradley Show, conservative lyrical radio.
And Welcome back to the Wayne Bradley Show. Wake up, Detroit. We're going into the last half hour here. It gets a little wild here. The phones are lighting up. Give us a call at 313-209-9000. I'm going to go to one of my favorite folks. Dr. Mack is on the line. Welcome to the show this morning, sir.
Thank you. You know, Wayne, listen to you talk. This trying to deflect about collusion with the Clinton Foundation. Let me tell you what's happening, Wayne, and I know it's making you cry, but you know, your Uncle Donald. You know, Wayne, maybe you and Sean Hannity can go pet Donald Trump's horses down in Mar-a-Lago, man, when he's down there on a permanent basis, okay? Because that's really what you want to do. You and your brother from another mother,
Sean Hannity.
Go ahead and do it, because, you know, Wayne, I'm sure Sean Hannity's looking to adopt a little brother, man, of your persuading to show he's not a racist, okay?
I've done the Sean Hannity show. He's a great man, a great patriot.
Well, yeah. You've done the Sean Hannity show. Yeah, but Sean Hannity has done you, okay, by you giving credence to being on there with him. But anyway, look, Wayne, once again, I think we're on now chapter 6 of the re-education of Wayne Bradley.
Yes, sir.
Now, what's happening here, Wayne, is this, is that when you talk about the real collusion is with the Clinton Foundation, that's ridiculous. It's a dodge. What's going to happen is that Robert Mueller is not going to stop, Wayne. He's not going to stop. I want you to understand something.
Is it possible that Robert Mueller is also part of the Russian? Is it
part of the Russian?
Is it possible he might have to recuse himself? Because this goes all the way back to 2008, 2009 when he was the FBI director. What did he know about this?
Well, what I'm saying is that light is the best disinfectant, Wayne. Okay, and so what I'm telling you is that Robert Mueller is not working against Robert Mueller. So in other words, when you're saying, well, could it be that Robert Mueller's involved? Well, in any police investigation, I mean, somebody could be supercilious and say, well, could it be that James Craig is involved? That's nonsense. What the fact of the matter is that you've got the best forensic investigators that the United States government has looking into this. And the truth is going to come out. I'm going to tell you what, Rance Priebus does not view himself well in prison, all right?
I bet he doesn't.
For that man. They'll have a lottery for that. And so what I'm telling you is that rather than go to prison,
you think he's going to rat?
Fall on their sword for Donald Trump, okay?
Right. You think they'll flip for Donald Trump?
Well, of course. Rather than go to prison, what I'm saying is that it is abundantly clear that Vladimir Putin did not want Hillary Clinton to be president. The Russians do not want her as president. Now, all you've got to do is follow the money and influence. Why is Vladimir Putin so much against Hillary Clinton? So this nonsense about, well, the Clintons were in love with the Russians. No, they're not. Look, people get speaking fees, Wayne. Hillary Clinton spoke at
but $500,000 during the time they're negotiating a uranium deal, you don't find any of that coincidence?
Okay, back up, Wayne. Facts are not your friends. Back up. Now, in terms of a speaking fee, all right, politicians do that. Every former president has done that.
Right.
Ronald Reagan got fantastic speaking fees from all groups, okay?
Right.
So it's not a matter of having a speaking fee. It's a matter of
who's paying you.
Someone tried to illegally. Okay, Wayne. Both of us see. Here's your problem, Wayne. You're not disciplined enough to have a compartmentalized debate.
All right, go ahead, Dr. Mack. Go ahead.
Something about you has been triggered where you must interrupt someone, okay? I will give you a chance to talk, Wayne. No, honestly, seriously.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Mack.
So what I'm telling you is that with the Clintons, all right, this nonsense about put money here in the Clinton Foundation, and then you're going to get access to the secretary, being Hillary Clinton at the time, is simply ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Because you are a public dignitary, Wayne, does not mean that you're buying influence, especially when there's a nonprofit, not like Donald Trump's for-profit businesses. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Well, that's why it's not that I try to interrupt. I just try to get it while it's still on my brain. But so you're saying that during 2009, 2010, when they're negotiating a uranium deal, and they're trying to get the influence. The way they were doing it was by making large donations to the Clinton Foundation. That's fact. That's not. I'm not mixing up my facts on that. That has already been proven that they were taking large. But you're not gonna let me finish, Dr. Mack. You're not gonna let me.
No. Just tell me who they is, Wayne. That's all.
Russian oligarchs and businesses, private businesses and entities. And we know out of Russia, anything that's a private business is still connected to the government, right? Okay, so, I mean, that is a fact. That happened. The $500,000 donation came from an oligarch in Russia. Nothing goes down in Russia without Putin's approval. We know this to be fact too, right? Is that am I missing something there?
Oh, I think that there is certainly a connection with the Russian oligarchs and Putin. There's no question about that.
So what I'm saying is that while we're investigating Donald Trump for possible when he was doing his real estate deals, I don't think that there was any collusion between campaigns. Now, if you want to say Russia they preferred Trump over Hillary, okay, let's take that as the argument up front that you're right about that. But there was no back and forth because the Trump campaign, I honestly don't think Donald Trump planned on winning. He didn't plan on winning.
Okay.
So there's no collusion to that. You can't collude to something you don't even think you're going to win in the first place. And so I think that now Mueller's there, right? So he's not just investigating the collusion aspect. He's going back 10 years into his finances now. He's going back into things that have nothing to do with him being president. And that's why it's a political hit job. They want him to resign. They want to put the pressure on Trump to resign. That's what the deep state is doing.
Okay. My turn?
Yep, we only got a couple minutes. I can't believe all these people started calling here at the last 2 minutes of the show. But go ahead. We're going to go ahead. Finish up. I'm going to give you the last word, Dr. Mack.
Okay, so now, in terms of the Russian oligarchs, if you say that all the oligarchs are connected to Vladimir Putin, you've got to paint that with the same brush when it comes to Manafort, all right, and his dealings.
Manafort's got problems. He's got problems.
Okay. Excuse me, Wayne. Okay. So you've got – and Manafort is not someone that's removed 10, 12 years down the road. Manafort was this man's campaign director. If you're going to talk
for 3
about
months.
The oligarchs –
he was there for 3 months.
And would have been there now if he hadn't been discovered. So now what I'm telling you is, with that same brush that you just used to talk about the connection with Russian oligarchs and Putin, I'm going to use to paint you into a corner, Wayne.
Paul Manafort has legal issues, not Donald Trump.
No.
Yes. Paul Manafort is the one not paying taxes. He's the one not being honest about being a foreign agent.
Wayne, you just got done talking about collusion, and I'm telling you that if the Russians have got a sink and a hook into Manafort has got a sink and a hook into Trump. And that's what Mueller is understanding, all right? So what I'm telling you is, in terms of trying to say, well, you know what, the oligarchs, are influenced, with Clinton and sale of uranium, that has nothing to do with it. Hillary Clinton sold no one uranium, Wayne.
The deal was made in the Obama administration. Look, all right, Dr. Mack, I got 10 calls on the line. I really do appreciate you calling. I got to run through these, but join me on Sunday. Join me on Sunday, 1 to 3. We're going to talk some more about this because I got 10 calls, and I got to run through them. I can't believe these folks just did this. Let's go through them real quick here. All right, we're going to go through JJ. JJ's on the line. JJ, thanks for calling in.
How you doing, man?
All right.
Back to the kneeling and all that don't bother me. What they should do, I was thinking about this. All the players should give up 10% of the money, get a trustee, put it in a bank account, start a corporation, and just lend money to black businesses. Black people could come with
what a concept.
You know what I mean? They want to open up a bicycle shop, like the Shark Tank.
Create a black bank, essentially.
Shop. Right, and they just take, 20, 30% of the business. Don't even want the money back. Don't even want the money back to repay it. Just take
they're going to want their money back. They make money. They in it to make money. You want to be a non-profit lending source, essentially, philanthropy.
Right, and if the company's successful, they they get 20, 30% of the profit. If they want to open up a McDonald's and they need $1 million,
right?
It don't have to be just in Detroit. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree.
In any county.
All right.
If they really want to help the black community.
Well, there's an idea. I mean, I think NFL players are open right now, and that's a good idea. Thank you for calling in, JJ. I appreciate it.
All right, Dave. Have a good day.
All right. We're going to go to Tracy. Tracy's on the line. Tracy, thank you for calling in.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jerome Barney has been on the station before talking about dollar velocity. So one morning, I would like for you to possibly go into economic empowerment and dollar velocity and how the Republicans support that for African Americans. And I only say that because as I'm looking at the data this morning for the majority owners for the NFL, the baseball league, the hockey league, we don't own anything still. I think Michael Jordan was given a small percentage, but we're not owners still in 2017. And then you said, well, if Dan Gilbert owns, the team will win, but Master P.
If Master P bought the Lions, I'd support him. Yeah.
Right.
If Master P or Diddy bought the Lions, anybody but the Ford family. That was my point.
Right. I just found it interesting that you mentioned his name, but there have been African Americans who have expressed interest in owning or gaining ownership in these teams.
Well, I was just talking about the Detroit Lions. If P. Diddy came and bought the Lions, I'd probably be a season ticket holder. So that was just in terms of Dan Gilbert being a winner and trying to build. Look what he did with the Cleveland Cavaliers, even though that's LeBron James, deserves just as much credit. But the way he runs the organization, he runs it to win, and that's what I respect. So thank you, Tracy. I will get Jerome Barney. He's definitely one of my mentors. I'll definitely bring him on, and we'll talk dollars velocity. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, let's go to Tim. We're running through these calls. Tim, thanks for calling in.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call, Wayne.
Thank you.
So the doctor there was having that was one of his worst spins that I've heard, He was having a hard time with that spin. But
well, I mean, he's trying to, in a way, he's trying to, and I get it. Like I said, no one's got clean hands in this dealing with Russia. But I just think it's been ironic that the only person they tried to go after was Donald Trump. That's all I was saying, Tim.
Yeah. Well, he said the light will, will make things transparent. So I heard the House of Representatives are opening up an investigation to this, and then Chuck Grassley's doing it in the Senate. So the light is about to shine upon us. Like I said, this is the deep state. This could be a fallen state if nobody goes to jail on this. But can you imagine, Hillary was part of the decision-making on this uranium, along with Eric Holder and Kim Geithner. Kim Geithner was a part of it. He goes back to Larry Summers and Robert Rubin, J.P. Morgan and them boys. They're a joke. But anyways, can you imagine if this were switched around, Wayne, and this was Donald selling 20% of the uranium to Russia?
Oh, they lose their mind.
Can you imagine?
Lose their mind.
Oh, my Lord. And it would be impeachment.
The media in itself would lose their collective minds, and it would just be all over the place. So, no, I agree that they treat it totally different there on that. And it's just
one last thing.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
One last thing. And you remember the debate with Mitt Romney when Barack Obama said, hey, the 80s call. He was aware of what happened.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I said, it's going to be interesting watching how they targeted it. We'll all have our popcorn ready, Tim. That's for sure. Thank you for calling in. I got to get to these last couple calls out the way here. All right, we got Michael. We're going to bring Michael on real quick. Michael, thanks for calling in.
I'm going to do a quick hitter. Look, I want to create a Thou Art the Man award for our black Democrats. And I'm sure you're aware of the Bible, and you're sure aware of when Nathan gave David a story. David got hot, and Nathan told him, well, you the guy I'm talking about. So all of these Victocrats, all of these people who are sitting at the seat of the Democratic Party, which has done nothing for black people but give us disaster after disaster. And then 95% of them are Democrats. When we leave the plantation, they are the crabs trying to pull us back, but they're telling us we're the ones who are licking boots, that we're the ones who are not intelligent enough to think for ourselves, and we're only holding positions because it makes the white man feel comfortable when they're the ones who are always begging. Can you give me more of this? Can you give me more of that? The government didn't do this. The government didn't do that. You let them, in the promo, you let them take away the pensions. Well, wait a minute.
And the funny thing about that promo is that Bill Schuette helped save the pensioners, and they wouldn't let me talk that out. You know, I guess that's how we do some of these promos here. But that's exactly what I said. Well, Bill Schuette helped save those pensioners, and you don't want to talk about that.
Here's something I want you to play because you play clips. Play the clip of Louis Farrakhan when he talked about the jobs and justice. He said, A. Philip Randolph and FDR, what do we want? Jobs and justice. The March on Washington, what do we want? Jobs and justice. 20 years after the march, what do we want? Jobs and justice. He works them up into a fever, and then he slams his hand on the table and says, wait a minute. When are we going to stop begging for things that we can do for ourselves?
Amen.
I agree with Farrakhan on that, brother.
Amen.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you, Michael. All right, we got a couple more calls. We got Dorian on the line. Dorian, thanks for calling in.
Good morning. Good morning. I would like to say economically, I think African Americans need to not affiliate with either party. One, I just feel as though both parties have not been in our favor. They weren't founded for us. I feel like you look at immigrants that come over here, they really don't affiliate with any parties. I actually agree with somewhat both sides. I'm more fiscally conservative than anything, and I feel like black folks should economically stand for themselves and shouldn't be chasing after giving a handout. We're, like you were just saying, the last caller, talking about begging for jobs, begging for justice. You're never going to get justice
when you got to beg for it. When you got to beg for it, you've already conceded the power when you're begging for stuff. So, some of these professional protesters, that's what they like to do, though.
Yeah, like you said before, that some of these people are professional protesters.
They've been taught by Jesse Jackson and some of the best of them. So, they're professional protesters. That's what they do. If there's an issue to protest, they're all over it. So, that's what they do.
Exactly.
With no hope to get anything done.
And one thing I wanted to add also, but I also, if we were going to get Detroit back, I look at these commercial corridors like 6 Mile, Grand River, Gratiot. What I would like what I like to see Duggan or whoever will be the mayor to do is freeze a property tax on some of these commercial. I'm interested. I have my own business. That's why I'm up at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, because I have a transportation business.
Okay.
I would like to purchase some land, but I'm looking at the property taxes, how they get you on the back property taxes, how high. I think they should freeze it to whatever current price it should be, and allow me, people to be able to, get on their feet going. Then they can catch up with all of that stuff. But
that might be something you ought to come to some of the zoning meetings or come down to the land bank and see who you can talk to about that if it's something that's already owned by the city. That's what I would suggest on that.
Right.
So thank you, Dorian, for calling in and giving that insight. I appreciate that, my friend. We're on every morning from 5 to 7, so make sure you check us out. Thank you. All right, we got Tim G. He's on the line.
Hi, Wayne. I was going back to the drug thing. There is an incentive, even with the departments, the police departments. I mean, you got the asset forfeiture. So you have the criminal justice system. You got the asset forfeiture. So when they get these drug people,
they take all this stuff. Right. It's all revenue driven. It's not about fighting crime. It's revenue driven.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you about getting rid of the laws on it. Even now at the medical establishment, they're prescribing these opioids, and there's an incentive there. The drug companies are going to give incentives to the medical professionals to prescribe these drugs over others.
That's why they have pharmaceutical sales reps. They use nice-looking women to go into those offices and sell those pills to those doctors. And then on top of that, you include financial incentives. So, I mean, it's a racket. It's totally a racket, Tim.
Yeah.
And I wish more people would pay attention to that as opposed to, like I said, some of these ridiculous laws that are on the books.
And I know there are intrusions in our civil liberties, the whole 9 yards.
I feel you. We have the same libertarian streak, my brother. Thank you so much for calling in this morning. All right. We're going to go to Eric. Eric's on the line. Eric, thank you for calling in.
Hey, no problem, Wayne. How you doing today?
How you doing, brother?
I'm all right. You know what? People need to be very careful as it relates to them talking about the Colin Kaepernick situation. He has every right to protest or kneel, and what he's doing and what he has started is a movement. And I tell you, I replied to a Twitter statement that the chairman made yesterday, Madam Chairman. I told her, until all three verses, I have not stood up for the national anthem in years.
Right.
But until all three verses are played at any of these events, then a person that is not black will understand what this and what Colin Kaepernick is doing. It was never intended for blacks to appreciate the national anthem because the national anthem does not even respect the blackness that we are. So play all three verses, let people hear all three verses, then the white that have never walked in our shoes will understand what we're saying as it relates to supporting Colin Kaepernick. It has nothing to do, people can talk about setting up all kinds of funds. This is not what this is about.
Right.
Bottom line, at the end of the day, even black people that do not even know all of the so-called black national anthem, but learn both anthems, and then you would be able to appreciate what Colin Kaepernick said from the start as to why he's doing what he's doing.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Eric, for adding that into. I know you've been supporting Colin Kaepernick as well, a fellow frat brother. So thank you for sticking up for that man. And again, this is what America's all about. He has the right opportunity. He has the right to speak up, and he shouldn't have lost his opportunity to have a chance to play in the NFL over that. So thanks again for calling in, and enjoy your weekend, brother. All right. We got one last call here. We got Marcia. Marcia, thank you for calling in.
Thank you, young man. You had a very good show today, all men. Listen, don't worry. Bernie Sanders 2020, we are going to make America really great again. I want you all to be reminded that 43 Democrats who claimed that our president colluded with Russians, 43 Democrats voted for him to have $700 billion of military spending money. If you think that this young man that's in our office, that he's another crazy, why are 43 Democrats, including both of our state senators here, voted to give him more money for the military? I think you all need to go and pull their records and see how much money they collect. Everybody's collecting money but the citizens of America.
Those Bernie Sanders supporters.
Bernie Sanders has had a good a young black male in Alabama is now mayor, and he's a progressive mayor. Mm-hmm. So we are on the move for 2018 and 2020. We are truly going to make this country great again. We're going to give people free college. We are going to we're going to take we're going to
you're going to kill the value of a college education just that quickly.
If Europeans can have free college,
this is not Europe. This is America. Thank goodness.
But we back them up militarily. We should be a very well educated country here. We need to educate Americans. That's the reason why. Hillary was flagged because she don't know computers. Most of the Democrats that are voting for Hillary, they don't even use the computer. We need to have people to go in there. We can go. You have the means of checking all the senators and representatives how they voting in Congress. And if you knew how they voted against you and the money that they stuffed inside their pockets and bank accounts, you would not continue to put these people in office.
Woo!
And this is what we're going to do. Don't worry, Bernie Sanders 2020.